Hello, my name's Neil Potter with Improving Your Small Business, and today we'll discuss improving small business manufacturing productivity and capacity. So a common issue in companies that are successful is that they end up selling more than they can actually build or assemble, and the space becomes kind of cramped and difficult to kind of work in, and so they're unable to kind of meet the capacity they need to. So here's some ideas to consider to improve the workflow and capacity of a particular assembly area. So the first thing to look at, I think, is workflow and redesigning a workflow to minimize the distance traveled by parts being made and the people doing the work. So for example, if you had a situation where you have a room where you do the manufacturing assembly, and a machine A is over here, and machine B is over there, and machine C is over here, and D is over there, and E is over here, and you have to keep on kind of going all over the place to get the thing assembled, then you're not minimizing the distance traveled by the people or the item being assembled. In this example here, this assembly person obviously has things laid out within arm's length, and she can actually reach any kind of tool or component very quickly. So a C shape is pretty common to have the person going to be there and then be able to kind of reach items correctly or quickly. Maybe even a stock of items behind they can actually look at, maybe a bigger stock of things they're going to use for the assembly area. Now, if you are bigger than that, you're not doing things in a desk area like this one here. Maybe you have a cart with wheels on it, and your item being assembled is on wheels, and that kind of then moves between locations. So if then we have a situation set up in our room, and we have A, B, C, D, E, and F, okay, then the cart kind of goes in a circle to be worked on by the next station, whatever the assembly item actually is. Again, so looking at the workflow, making it a bit more linear or circle or semicircle, and then making it the movement of that thing much easier. And then if you have a larger space, maybe figuring out where do the incoming items come in from, like supplies. They come in kind of over here, and making sure the workflow goes in a correct linear or circle approach, so things are going to get consumed in a particular order and kind of pop out at the very end, okay? Or they come in over here on the left and they kind of go out on the right, okay? Again, getting the assembly workflow aligned so incoming stuff is on one part, kind of storage of things, and then kind of outgoing final product is on the other side, and there's a linear place or a flow between the kind of two places to kind of get work done. So the next one is to reduce or eliminate rework and errors, since these occupy time and space. So if you have a workflow figured out, maybe kind of workflow like this, however you want to lay it out physically, if you know there are many mistakes being made at this point over here, not being caught correctly or kind of eliminated, then that kind of it becomes wastage going downstream, and that ends up being a pile of stuff that occupies space and time to go sort through at the very end. And so when you get your workflow figured out, do some simple measures. Where are the mistakes being made, and where are they being caught? Maybe they're being made up here, but kind of caught down here. And then bit by bit start to eliminate those and push the detection to the left or the very beginning of the life cycle. You will not be perfect. Nobody's ever perfect. But you may be able to get down by 20% and then by 20% and 40%, whatever. So over time, you can get people invested in this and figure out where the mistakes are. And then the output is a lot better, therefore less time to rework and a lot less space to occupy for kind of wasted items and broken things. Now, your team that does the assembly manufacturing area, they are skilled, they know where they make mistakes or where mistakes are made, where mistakes are kind of found. And so I would say don't try to guess for them, have them a challenge, okay? Have them look at the saving 20%. Now they can figure out together where things are breaking or where problems are occurring or machines are kind of bad, and they can come up with their own plan. A, they have better insight, and B, they own the solution and they're likely to kind of want to stick with it over time. So the next thing is to look for areas where you can free up space. There could be inventory that is slightly old, that will not be actually used. You can get that kind of sold off for cheap. There could be lots of junk around. that is not particularly well stored or just occupy space, that could be got rid of too. Don't assume that your space is perfectly used at this point. Let's go critically through the stuff and figure out kind of what you need and kind of what you kind of don't need. I don't have an emotional attachment to it like I need that because it's 15 years old. I know the demand will come back again. Probably won't. Get rid of it and use the space for something more worthwhile. Consider moving some of the admin to home offices. People like to be a part of a team. They like to kind of be there with each other. So don't do this, willy-nilly. But if there are some things like running taxes or doing accounting, and so that thing could be done at home as equally as in the building, does that give you any kind of space to free up for other purposes? If they want to be there, let them be there. They like to be part of a team. They're more motivated. Do not move admin tasks that need to see what is going on. Management, supervisors, assembly people, experts, consultants, whatever, they need to sit there and live with the situation. They need to live positive and negative outcomes so they can figure out what is going on. If they are remote in some kind of other place, they're not going to have the same level of acuity to kind of what is going on, and they won't understand the situation. So again, just consider a few items here and there if you can move them out. Otherwise, figure out how to use the space better. Now, after you've figured out some of the improvements above, like the workflow issues and defects and mistakes, is some of your capacity issues caused by accepting lower price work? Are you getting inundated with kind of cheap stuff that occupies time and space and manufacturing items, but doesn't really pay very well? The margins are kind of very low. And can you either delay that to maybe slower times, maybe summertime or Christmas time or some kind of a time period, or could you build those things in a high volume where the last step is not done yet, the coloring or the configuration, and then when people want to buy it or kind of order it, then you have a bunch to kind of go that could be made yellow or purple or tweaked in some kind of way, and you can make those things that are high volume, low price in some of your downtimes and then kind of sell them off later on. Or could you delay some of the customers to a little bit later where there's more of a slow period that you can predict, like a vacation time or summertime, whatever, and then kind of work on that stuff? Or do you have maybe a more chronic issue where you get high volume because you are the cheapest, okay? And maybe you're now good enough to not be the cheapest, and you can raise prices a little bit just to kind of push some of the work that could be occupying your space that's kind of low margin either to be a higher margin or kind of not do it all. Now be very careful about that. Don't send people kind of running. You need business, but are there other ways to kind of handle that business that could be good for you and kind of good for the customer? Now, if you have quite a few machines of different kinds, whatever the machines are, and it takes a long time to maintain them, maybe you're the CEO or the owner of the company and you have expertise in that, and you get dragged into every machine breakage to kind of fix it because you know how it should be working. Can you cross-train employees to do it so you can be freed up to other things? Because they may be able to make their own little repairs and they could be good at that. Do you look at the machines on a regular basis proactively to make sure they're not going to break? Is there a particular life cycle where the fan belt's going to wear out or the spring is going to break or the thing's going to collapse, and you can head that off by maybe doing a quarterly or a semi-annual whatever kind of check on the machine and give it a new part or a new thing to make it kind of wear out less often or less critically and when it kind of wears out. Do you have common spare parts stacked up somewhere? So if it does break, you can quickly replace the spare part and keep on going. Or do you have no spare parts that you know are going to break and therefore there's a major delay? So can you be proactive on some of the chronic and regular items that are going to break and be prepared for those? And can you buy second-hand machines that are actually equally good, maybe with cash, that could be replacing some of the old stuff? There's always somebody out there that wants the brand new thing that costs a fortune, and they are happy to get rid of their older thing that is quite good for a lower price. Can you shop around and buy good stuff that actually works, where it's not the brand new stuff, but it's good enough for you for what you need to do, It doesn't look as shiny or whatever, but it's actually adequate, and you can kind of pay cash with it and avoid kind of ongoing debt. Now, sometimes the capacity issue causes staff burnout because they are trying to keep up, with the workflow. So the previous things are good to look at, maybe to kind of simplify the workflow and eliminate some of the mistakes and issues. Are there steps in addition to that the supplier can do before they give you stuff? So are you doing cutting of things to the right size, which occupies a lot of time and belabors the staff and makes them burned out? But maybe the supplier can do that for you, and maybe for a little fee or even no fee. And basically they give you the pre-cut materials, or pre-painted, or pre-stretched, or pre-whatever, and then you can actually just assemble it correctly. So a bit less labor on your people, and then pushing that kind of labor activity to the supplier. Maybe they'll do it for a fee, or supplier will do it for a fee, and that'd be worth it because you're going to save 5 hours a week on doing it yourself. Analyze where time is spent and try to automate or delegate it. For example, sweeping the floor or labeling stock. Are your people doing that occupies precious hours? Can that be delegated to somebody else? Another vendor, another company, a college student that's learning the kind of ropes? Are there people that can do that you'll be happy to do that for a while, but your people don't have to do it, and therefore a bit less stress on them? Now, if your team is a little bit kind of stressed because of the burnout issue, can you surprise your team with a night out? Now, if you like bingo, don't do bingo. They don't like bingo. Ask them what they want, what they would like as a night out. Maybe take them to dinner somewhere, some kind of fancy-ish place for dinner. Maybe kind of bring in lunch also. But do something that they would like and appreciate on a regular basis to kind of show you kind of care. You show that you care, that they're working extra hours to kind of cope with whatever you're giving them. Thank you for watching the video. Please put your comments and questions down below. Check out the video on the left, How to Succeed in a Small Business, 8 Steps, and the one on the right, a simple, inexpensive barcode system. Thank you. Bye-bye.